going on, all my gamers, all my Wuthering Waves gamers? So there's been a lot of discussion about, fixing echoes recently, and I thought I would give an actual, real answer this time. I'm always on here. When Wuthering Waves does something bad, I usually fly off the handle and just make a video where I'm just, complaining about it. But today I actually want to get in here and dive into it and just, actually give some things that I think would be good. I'm not going to be out here yelling or anything like that or getting overly, going over the top. Today I actually want to discuss this. And the first thing that I do want to talk about are the positives that I think are pretty cool about Wuthering Waves and the way that the ecosystem starts. Now, this is just a small detail for me, but what I really like is the echo collection progress and stuff like this, because you do get just, you get rewards. Here's 40 asterite, you get asterite tubes and stuff like that. I think this is pretty cool because it gives you incentives to go out and just farm a bit, walk around the world. And trust me, in a game like this, you don't really need a lot of incentives. You're going to be walking around the world anyways because the world in this game is beautiful. You're going to be out here either way. A little extra pocket change is never going to hurt anybody, right? Another thing that I think is cool is this enhanced drop rate for Overlord and Calamity, bosses. I think that's really sick. And I know it's limited to 15, but, let's be honest. This is something that they have to do because this is a gacha game. So I think this is perfect the way it is. You go in and you fight a boss and you farm for the materials that you think you need. This is better than the weekly boss, which again, it's a weekly boss. Makes complete sense that you could only do it 3 times a week. That's totally cool. One thing that I do like that I think is a pretty big positive, especially when a game that is a gacha game, you need a reroll and stuff like that. One thing I do like is that you don't need to roll into your crit rate. You will either get that crit rate that you need or you won't. And if you don't, you move on to the next one. You try to get a different set, a different type. You go in for another reroll and stuff like that. That's fine. I think that's totally cool. And it's honestly, in a lot of ways, I think it's a lot better than other ways that they do it. Because, you can get a double crit rate set in, a Hoyo game. And then it's just oh, it all went into HP. That's great. I'm going to go jump out the window. So I do think that's cool. And unfortunately, I think that's where the positives end. Now, we're going to get into the negatives and things that I do think need to change, but we're going to stay calm. We're going to stay relaxed. We're going to get through this. So one of the negatives that I do think needs to change is the amount of resin that it takes to do a tacit field. I feel like a lot of people are not really talking about this, and this is something that I have never really been okay with. It's just, and this is something for me, right? And here, this is something that you guys are going to be like, oh my God, you're just trolling us. But listen, I don't really feel the need, or actually I do feel the need to use this stuff, but I don't, which is the half moons. I do have 115 because I spend a lot of, I spend money on the battle pass and stuff like that. But a tacit field costing 120 to do it twice, that is half your resin. And you do it another time and that's it. Now your resin's all gone. One thing that this is good for though is if you really need to just get into this game and get out, your dailies need to be done in under 10 minutes, under 5 minutes or something like that. Get into a task field, do it twice, your dailies are basically done, right? But I think this is just, I think they're making this seem like a boss, your boss materials, your boss fights should not be costing as much as your tacit fields, right? And I think at Genshin it's 40 resin for a boss, and in the what's it called, the domains for artifacts, it's only 20, and for double it would be 40, and for ZZZ I think it's I think it is, no, for ZZZ it's also 40, and you can do that at least 5 times because you get 300 resin in that game. So if you can have a lot of resin, like in this game, 240, and that's cool, right? That's all fine and good. But if you say have 1,000 resin in a day and a domain costs 900 resin, well, then it doesn't really matter if, say, you have 5 resin and everything costs 1 resin, right? You're seeing where a lot of this is kind of, it just seems like it's super troll. But that's just in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel. If you guys think that this is okay, hey, that's totally fine. I'm just saying, Honkai Star Rail, it's also 40, and you get 300 resin in that now. This is just what I think should be lowered. I'd say 40. Let's just round it off to 40. You know, 40 is a good number. I think dropping it down to 40, I would say, honestly, I would say 20, but I think that's a little too much. So having 40, I think that's a good solid number. But let's move on. Another thing that I have been talking about is breaking and using echoes as fodder at level 0. No one has been able to tell me why this is not in the game like it is in every other game, right? If I'm using an echo and losing XP, you know, this isn't really benefiting me if I'm just breaking it down at like level, I don't know, 20, 25. I prefer it where other, you know, the Hoyo games, you can use it at level 0. You can use this as like, you know, materials or XP and stuff like that. In ZZZ and Honkai Star Rail, you could use these for focus forging. And that is also another thing that I think needs to be into this game is focus forging. Now, you don't need to do this for substats, but I think a main stat could be a pretty cool thing to reroll into that. And speaking of reroll, let's all tie this up in together from the top to the bottom. I think they need to remove rerolls. I think rerolls is such a terrible system. I don't think it's good, but I do like where they were. I can kind of see where they were going with it. I just don't think it should be that randomized. Now, if you say use 3 or even 4 or 5 loose echoes and you can forge it into a main stat, right? Say I want to use the new ice, what do you call it? The new ice artifact, right? I think re-rolling 4 or 5 into that and then hoping to get, you know, an attack, a defense or whatever. At that point, as long as I get the ice thing as the main stat, sure, then I'm just out there farming all day, hoping to get the stat that I need. I think that would be pretty cool. You know, that's just me. And another thing that I feel like they should be broken down into is just tubes, like tubes in general. They don't even need to be broken down into golden tubes. They can literally be blue or purple, but just the fact that I can't use my level 0 stats as tubes or break them down in any other way, I just have to re-roll them. I think it's really bad. But, you know, someone like Kuro, I do trust to eventually listen to this part of the community and, you know, really change this, right? I do think it might take a bit. This is literally overhauling an integral part of the game. So if this takes a little bit, I can see that happening, you know. I don't mind it. I totally understand it. This is like I'm telling you, hey, remove that entire thing from the game and then put this thing that you probably don't even know how to implement, because I'm thinking this up on the fly as well. So it is what it is. Now, this is something that I think would be cool, but it is also just an optional thing. I'm just throwing it out there. I think it would be nice. Doesn't have to be implemented. This is just kind of whatever. But focus forging and rerolls for subsets like they do in Honkai Star Rail, you know, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, now you have to buy the battle pass. So this is just something that I think would be cool, but at the same time, you know, they usually put this stuff in the battle pass, so it would incentivize more people to, you know, buy the battle pass, and if you don't, you might fall behind. That's why I don't think they should do it, but it would be nice. I'm just saying it would be nice. I'm not saying you have to do it, right? And of course, remove tuners. Tuners suck, you know, no one really likes them, stuff like that. This is kind of like the only thing, I mean, other than story's kind of whatever, but this is one of the only things that I think really holds back a lot of characters being built and stuff like that. But I do trust Kuro to eventually overhaul this ecosystem, or at least I would hope they do. They don't have to. I'm just saying it would be really nice. Anyways, I want to know how you guys feel about this. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about echoes and fixing them and stuff like that. So I wanted to get on here and have an actual discussion, you know, not actually going on here and yelling. Let me know how you guys feel. If you guys don't agree, that's totally fine. Hey, I'm no stranger to pissing off the Wuthering Waves community. Trust me, it is what it is. But let me know how you guys feel. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I will catch you gamers in the next one. Bye.